Wednesdays, where we like to take a midweek break from all the gaming news and take a look at everything else going on in the world of Linux. And as we do like to say, it's slightly less cussy than what we do on the weekends. I'm Vince Stone, and joining me is our Portuguese correspondent, and out in LA.
No promises on the no cussing.
Hi.
An actual developer, because, a lot of shows, a lot of hardware guys and all that, but, he is the creator of Lutris, and he does all that fun stuff. Pedro, how about we do what we do every week and just get right into it?
I say let's get right to it, and Strider kind of picked the first story in the notes here, so he gets to take it away.
Yes, it was kind of one of the biggest news this week with the release of a new version of Ubuntu. So it's 16.04. It's an LTS, and yeah, it's out. So what's new about this release of Ubuntu? Well, not that much. And most of the changes are mostly server-related.
I like how they're talking about the relationship with Canonical. With Microsoft, because I think...
there has been a lot going on with Canonical and Microsoft this cycle, so...
Well, before we started recording, I said, if I'd said this 5 years ago, if we backed up 5 years, I was like, 5 years from now, Microsoft's going to own Canonical. You'd be like, crazy, Vin. But if I riddled you this, Strider, and I said... Would it be within the realm of possibility for Microsoft's play for the Linux server market to just go ahead and buy Canonical?
Yeah, that's not impossible, but I find it unlikely, but yeah. So what do we have server side? You have official support for ZFS. We have things like LXD hypervisor, LXC 2.0. And that's, most of the changes we see are cloud-based and everything. We also have some changes with Ubuntu Mobile. And a couple changes on the desktop as well. The biggest one being the replacement of Ubuntu Software Center with GNOME software.
Well, I heard something about you might need to check if you have the AMD-powered video cards, man.
Yeah, because they removed support for FGLRX. So now if you were using that, well, no, you can't anymore. And no, that's not because they hate AMD card owners. That's mostly AMD is to blame here because their version of FGLRX does not even work with X server on Ubuntu 16.04.
Yeah, they actually removed that, but even if your AMD GPU isn't supported by the AMD GPU drivers, you can just keep on using Mesa with R600 or Radeon SI because those work just fine.
You might have a performance drop though.
Well, yeah, that's to be expected. And you would get a performance drop even with AMD GPU if you were using the open source driver itself. You'd only get the bonus performance if your card happens to be compatible with the proprietary blob that AMD GPU may load. Now, on my end, I did upgrade the calculator, which Nori is currently using, to 1604. And so long as you remove all instances of libstdc++ SO6 from the Steam runtime, you're fine. It works.
I don't know. I think everyone, if you want to be careful with this, be smart. Give it about 2, possibly 3 months. Let everyone else run into those wonderful show-stopping bugs. Then think about doing it 6 months after that. That'll be brilliant. But coming up next, we need to talk about the Opera. Not the one you sing at, but the web browser, because now it has a VPN service that's not really a VPN. But man, they want you to think
it's a proxy.
The Opera web browser now has a free built-in quote-unquote web VPN service of all things, and that's really it. It is only available in the betas right now. What build again is that, Strider? What, 38, 39?
I went to the website for Opera. I think I downloaded the first version I saw, and when I installed it, it said Opera Developer 38. So that's what I have currently, and it was here out of the box. It worked pretty well. You can choose between an IP in the States, Germany, or Canada. So, and when I chose an IP in the States, it gave me an IP in LA. So that was cool.
It just used your own IP.
Almost, yes. Yeah, the service was kind of slow, but hey, it's a free VPN free proxy. So I'm not going to complain.
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely, I was the first time I had installed Opera in like 6 years and installed it.
Me too.
I was like, okay, that's a thing. And I mean, good on them. They got to come up with some type of gimmick because it's pretty much Chrome, or if you like really slow browsing, you use Firefox. Send your hate mail to, but I did get a good laugh, but apparently it just does it on anything not Chrome or Chromium based, because I'm either running Chrome or Chromium or Chrome Beta, because, you know, I've just given up to the Googs. But I went to just Google using, you know, google.com using Opera, and it says, this page would perform better with Chrome. Download now.
Yeah, that blank page with a search box. Yeah.
But on top of that, this came from Space. He was basically saying what Pedro was saying. I mean, it's a glorified proxy service. I mean, currently right now, they said that, over at Opera, they came out and kind of backed on it a little bit because, you know, it's like this thing does not secure WebRTC, Brainpin, and a couple of other things, right? And they said, well, it might do it in the future right now, but yeah, you know, we're just going to, you know, I think their official name for it now is browser-based VPN, but just keep that in mind. So what's up next?
Yeah, you kind of brought up Firefox, and would you look at that? Firefox will adopt the snap format for Ubuntu. Yeah. So that's one of the big things that came with the Ubuntu release were the snap packages, and the folks at Microsoft, all right, we'll start providing snap packages for Ubuntu. And they've also made Firefox is now the default browser in whatever Ubuntu flavor you're currently running, unless it's a very specific one. But yeah, this is a move, certainly, when it comes to Mozilla, because I can't really tell you if it's good or not.
Well, all right, I want to ask everyone this. I mean, I want to get this quote right. It says, with the snap format, new features can be released to users of older OS versions too. How is that possible if older OS versions don't have
Yeah, they don't have snap. They don't have support for snap. So maybe it's be ready for the future. I mean, and that's...
Well, I mean, hey, all right, least of our worries. At least it's secure, right?
Snap. Until someone finds an exploit.
You could fix it. It is secure, but not quite, as Matthew Garrett has discovered. So you may know Matthew Garrett as the guy who does most of the work on the Linux power management. Mm-hmm. And he was toying a bit with snap packages. And what he found out is it's supposed to be sandboxed applications, but because it's running on top of the X server, well, it's not that secure, and it can be broken out of the sandbox pretty easily. And, you know, the snap packages are not to blame here. It's really an issue with Xorg or X11. But that particular issue could be solved if you use Mir, the Mir window manager or display server.
Right. For the one distribution that will use Mir while everyone else uses Wayland. Oh, wait. Wayland doesn't have that issue either. Right. Cool.
Yeah, Wayland, it's pretty much the same. I mean, GNOME has another technology that is pretty similar to snap packages, which is XDG apps. So it's also sandbox self-contained applications. And they have the exact same problem on Xorg. So that's why they set Wayland as a requirement for these packages.
XDG app will take care of the sandboxed applications, and assuming you're running Wayland with that, which you need to, they will basically not let... I like that he called it X Evil Teddy. Yeah, it won't let it just walk right out of the sandbox, and that's a good thing. But one of the things that everyone was sort of expecting from the Snap packages was the whole, okay, so it's a container. The sandboxing is not, what's the word I'm looking for? But it is, in a way, implied. So, yeah, it kind of sort of defeats the purpose-ish.
Well, I don't know.
It does. I mean, until Mirror gets released, I mean, in a usable states.
Let's talk about movies.
Yes, movies. So you may have heard of the news that Steam now offers some actual proper movies, not just that weird Mortal Kombat TV series that never actually came to be. Yeah, they struck an agreement with Lionsgate, and they basically offer their recent-ish movie library to Steam users for between $4 and $5 for 2 days of rental, as it were. And that's kind of an issue because there's the whole thing, and we'll get to it in a moment, about why didn't they just implement Netflix? And it's because Valve wants to create its own Netflix branch, in my opinion.
Well, I don't know. I think Valve wants anything that they can get money off of, and I believe Lionsgate was like, we'll do it. I mean, when was this? Like 2 days ago, because like when you do your default search for Linux games, it doesn't filter out by categories, and it was genuinely a page full of movies. And it was like, no. And before we started recording, we're like, what's it cost to actually go to the brick and mortar local video store and rent a movie for like 5 days? It's like $3. All right. Yeah, I think we're going to stick with that, because then you got to think about deploying this thing. It's only viable, really, if you have a Steam box or have built a Steam box. And let's face it, you would probably much rather build a Steam box on the cheap than pay the Dell tax. But the most horrible, grievous mistake that they've made was, in the Leprechaun 4-pack, they did not include Leprechaun in the Hood.
Yeah, that's one of the things we should mention. They included the 3 Leprechaun movies, the main continuity, if those movies ever had a continuity. But it also comes with some other movies, like the Katniss screenshot already gave it away. What's the movie called proper? Me and names. Hunger Games. The Hunger Games are available. The Twilight Saga is available. So yeah, it's got about 100-ish movies that you can rent for 48 hours for $5.
And I guess there's one more thing we need to bring out. Give me a second, Macho. Is that this launched simultaneously in the States and America's Hat on the same day. It was like they were treating them like they were real people.
Yeah, but you could probably find most of these movies on DVD for cheaper, and just like
discount bin.
Yes.
Well, one thing that is not a discount are the people that make this show possible, Pedro.
Yes, indeed. If you go on over to linuxgamecast.com/support the shows, and you can find all the ways to give us monies, but we're here to especially thank all of our Patreons. They're kicking us a few shekels every single week. Even if it's just 5 cents, it rounds up to about 20 cents a month. It's really not breaking the bank. And if you kick us, throw a dime at our heads every week, we get the numbers, and we get to, bring more content to you and say, like, hey, people want to see us do what it is we do, which sometimes I'm not entirely sure what it is, but we love you guys all the same. Thank you very, very much.
Do you want to get a quick shout out to Benno's? I know I'm butchering that, but I'm Ben Stone. Expect that. Upped his donation, and that's awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, it keeps us
really awesome.
Loud, live, and independent, and it keeps us from going. Brought to you by Casper. Brought to you by Ting. Would you like to buy product X? So,
hey, at least as long as you're not compromising your journalistic ethics in order to.
No. I mean, listen. Jack Daniels, Gibson guitars, NVIDIA. You want to sponsor, right?
Chesterfield, if you want to kick us,
Okay, let's get to all right, that's enough goofing around. Let's talk about this, because this is Remax 2.0. What is it? Never heard about it. Well, if you're just listening to the audio, this gentleman here has a Nexus 10, great tablet. I totally own one, so I'm a little biased. And he's showing like a logical thing with multiple windows, instead of one task at a time with that horrible task switcher. And that's what they've built with this. It's currently out. I mean, it's in the betas for the Mantas, but multitasking, you get a taskbar, notifications, really starts making sense when you think about buying one of those cases with an actual keyboard on it. Then things get a lot more interesting. I mean, not only multiple windows, you get resizable windows, minimize, maximize. Kind of like a usable desktop. But, you can still use all your regular Google apps. I think it's pretty darn neat. But, Frenchie, you couldn't get it on your Nexus 7, right?
Yeah, it looks really cool. But, they support the Nexus 10, but not the Nexus 7, especially the Nexus 7 from 2012, which I own. But being based on Android Lollipop, I wouldn't risk it because it wouldn't run really well. But yeah, it has a very Windows 10 or budgie desktop look to it, which looks kind of nice.
It makes sense that it would look like budgie because budgie was based on the Chrome.
Chrome OS. Yes.
So yeah.
So
I don't know. I mean,
it kind of looks very similar. But the real cool thing with this operating system is the tablets they sell with it. I mean, the Remix ships with the tablets made by Jide, and they have 11-inch Tegra 4 with 64 gigabyte storage with the keyboard, and they sell it for $300. So that's like a really good deal.
Which sounds like it's a really genuine. I was like, oh, that's great. And I went there. I was like 11.6-inch screen at 1080p, and I was like, nope. I hit the Lana button on that thing very quick because if we go back to my Nexus 10, it's effectively a 2K display.
Yeah, and even my Shield, it's a 8-inch 1920 by 1200 resolution. So yeah.
But they were definitely saying in chat, it was like, but Samsung. I'm sorry, I'm just making fun of a typo, which I think that was a typo. And
Samsung?
Not Samsung's little brother. It's like, they could do the two Windows things. I was like, yeah, that involved having to buy a Samsung device. And yes, I know the Nexus 10 is technically a Samsung, but it doesn't have all the crapware on there. And this is open source. And it's free. And
yeah,
I'm probably going to try it out, kind of like what Strider said. Once it gets on Marshmallow, I'm definitely going to install it and start tinkering around with it. And it could replace my CyanogenMod Nightlies. But this is a little debate that went on a few days back over at R Linux on the Reddit. Who was it? Valgrid asked, lift Phronix ban. Some time ago, the mods decided to block Phronix, understandably. And to this day, you can't submit a Phronix link to this automod. I mean, it's just like, boom, we're going to ban it because reasons. Spam blog submissions, and, there was a, back and forwards. And ultimately, they decided to let the Phronix back in. The reason it seems like, I didn't even know it was like blocked from R Linux. I was just like, they just don't post a lot of Phronix links. Good on them. And apparently at some point in R Linux's life cycle, it just became Phronix spam blog. And that's why that rule was put into place. So I'm going to ask you this, Pedro. Well, actually, let me ask you this, Frenchie, because I know what Pedro's going to say. We think alike on this topic. Is it a value add to write a 2-sentence summary, link to 13 of your own articles, and somewhere in there might have the source? Back to the original news. Because tell me, did anything I say, was anything I just said, in factual?
Yeah, it's pretty much correct. I mean, this is the Phronix way of writing articles. But yeah, this website gets a lot of hates pretty much everywhere. And I wasn't aware it was banned either. So Yeah, but Phoronix has its flaws. But the thing is, I keep reading it. So why? Because it doesn't have any competition. It's the only website like this that they have software reviews, hardware reviews, they have benchmarks, and they have zero competition. So that's why it may be bad, but there's nothing to replace it. So my advice is just to take everything published on this website with a grain of salt and don't get too hyped on the speculations. And yeah, you should be able to enjoy the articles.
I don't know, man. I definitely think that might be a bit of a problem, Pedro, because the type of people that genuinely or generally read the Phoronix might not be the most experts in the Linux.
Yeah,
business.
they're not. They're usually just Googling for Linux gaming something, and they, oh, look, there's Phoronix. Gonna go check this website. Oh, there's a bunch of stuff and benchmarks and whatnot. Now, the one thing, and this is sort of a PSA, that if you're going to read on purpose, if you're purposefully read Phoronix, every single graph you see from the benchmarks, you need to take a grain of salt with it, because Phoronix benchmarks are only comparable to other Phoronix benchmarks, because his benchmarks are completely irreproducible. Even if you have the exact same hardware and you're running the exact same system and you did all the modifications that he hints at, you always get very different numbers. And it's not like within 1 or 2 FERPs. It's usually a big discrepancy. So keep that in mind.
Well, I mean, I don't know. That is, compare them to each other. That's not a place I personally go for benchmarks. I mean, I just look how something would run generally when the performance is just definitely not there. But if we're going to talk about performance, let's talk about streaming and recording. OBS! You know it. You love it. It is the Tonka toy, ffmpeg, made easy. So, you know, a lot of people can do exactly what this picture shows. Here's my game, and here's my screen, and here's me in the bottom right-hand corner, blah, blah, blah. So, what are you thinking? Is like, Vin, why are you talking about this? OBS has been on the Linux for quite some time, and I would say yes. A mysterious voice in my head. You are correct, but here's the thing. This release brings, are you still using ALSA? Yes, I'm sorry. But now you can use it as an input source. And the big one, the big thing, is NV encode support is here. But if you want to use it, you're either going to have to compile, which is not that difficult, or there's a couple of copper repos and for the Ubuntu's, the PPAs for ffmpeg. Now, I am not a moon wizard, and I tried using Ubuntu's official guide on doing this, and I even talked to Aaron Plattner. If you don't know what an Aaron Plattner is, he's the guy in charge of the Linux driver development at NVIDIA, and he just gave me a shrug emoticon. He's like, I don't know. But Strider got it to work the first time. He didn't even...
yeah, but it was pretty painful to get running. But it did work. That did provide some really impressive results. So what I'm hoping for is that the OBS team provide builds for both OBS and NVEnc. The NVEnc enabled ffmpeg support for 1604. That would be really nice because, I mean, building OBS is easy, but yeah, ffmpeg with NVEnc, very, very painful, or at least it was when I tried last time.
It isn't now because it's officially supported NVEnc in OBS itself. You can just use regular old ffmpeg and they'll take care of the NVEnc bits on OBS's side. So you just pull the sauce and you can keep your ffmpeg devels where they are and you just build it from source.
Strider,
and lo and behold.
I don't think he knows how it works.
Yeah, I know how it works. I built it from source and it works.
Well, then you just said you didn't need to build it from source, even though it clearly states that you need to download NVE-enabled ffmpeg in order to use it.
Well, unless it pulled it automatically. Which
I'm just telling you that's their instructions, man. So
those are old instructions. Now it's
I don't think you can use vanilla ffmpeg, man.
I don't think so either.
Unless it's pulled
I'll have to try it.
How about
maybe.
this? I mean, if you know what you're talking about, unlike us apparently, leave a comment in the video if you're watching on the YouTubes, or drop us a line on the Patreon page, or just and we'll sort that out, because we're not going to win anything by doing this. But on the topic of performance,
yes. Well, if you're a dweller of the internet and you've been around the block a couple of times, chances are you ran across that parody website that lets you download more RAM. Well, this what's his name, Graphite Master, actually decided to take that up and actually, why not download more RAM? And basically all this does, it's a teeny tiny script that you download, you compile it, and when you run it, it compiles into a teeny tiny library that you'll need to preload. And if you preload that and then run, I don't know, Minecraft, and you set it to use more RAM than you actually have on your system, it will attempt to use the VRAM on your GPU as the extra necessary RAM. It's if you have a GTX 970 like me, remember you only have 3.5 gigs of extra RAM. In my case, I have yet to use more than 10 out of the 16 gigs in this box right now. Although it's worth mentioning that if you have an APU, don't do this, because that's already using the system RAM as VRAM, so you're not gaining anything.
No, but have fun. Maybe it'll explode. Ironically, this is not the first time this has been done, but it was a long time ago since the last time it was done, because I remember reading it on Slashdot, and it's been a while since that was relevant.
Yeah. But anyway, that's not meant to be used. Actually, it's more of a joke, but it's a pretty good joke, and it's well done. I mean, the guy really knows what he's doing. And I was looking at his other stuff on GitHub, and it does quite a lot of OpenGL stuff. He did some contributions for Red Eclipse and Tesseract, like these open source FPS games. So yeah, he's a pretty good guy.
All right, so we got one more thing before we get out of here. Tell me about it, Fritchie, because I looked at this and I was like, don't care.
Oh yeah, Ubuntu Make. So Ubuntu Make basically lets you easily install IDEs or development stuff like languages onto your Ubuntu system just by tapping a few commands, and there you have it, like all the setup for let's say Eclipse or Android Studio within like a few commands. That's really neat. I mean, it's done by a French developer called Didier Roche that I have met a couple times already. A really cool guy. He does a lot of awesome projects. He did Quickly, the Quickly framework a couple of years back, which was used in the first versions of Lutris. Awesome guy. I use Ubuntu Make a lot, actually. I use this for WebStorm, and also whenever I need to have an Android Studio available. So yeah, really neat tool. Love it. Use it a lot.
So it's GNU Make with mock?
No, it's not related to GNU Make. It's a totally different tool. It's written in Python.
It's higher level, right? It takes twice as long to compile everything.
No, it does not compile. It's usually binaries that it downloads from websites. Like it will download the archive for Eclipse. It will download and extract the program automatically, like set up launchers.
Guys, that was not obvious.
Oh, so you looked at that and said, "Man, if it only installed games."
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing as Lutris, but for developer stuff.
All right, well, that's a pretty neat project. And like with everything else, you can check this Nightmare Fuel in our show notes. But do we get any feedback this week? I think
yes,
we got one
we did. It's one thing we love around these parts is some actual hate mail, as it were. No, wait, that's
That's the other
That's
show.
the Saturday show. Yeah. But yeah,
this
AJ.
is where we're nice people, Pedro. Remember, smile.
Yeah. AJ actually got back to us and he asks, is there an RSS feed for an audio-only LWDW? Ben, I'm desperate for one.
No.
Right, fair enough.
There will be. We never promised. I was like, I would never do this, but I did have this thought experiment. I was like, we never said we were going to make this a podcast.
Maybe it's just a video thing. Who knows? We don't.
But it was kind of implied because of our Saturday show is a podcast, and I pretty much stunk everything together. I just got to push it out live, and we got to hammer on it for a little bit. Really shooting for the end of this month. Like I said, I think like 2 weeks ago, to have it done by the end of this month and at least get a couple of people playing around with it. And it'll be all the back shows. It'll be added to the RSS feed, and it'll be a simple MP3 that you can download. And I know, please don't write in and say, please, where's my OGG feed? And I'll do that like we used to do on Linux Gamecast weekly and have that up running for 2 years that I'm like, this is just duplication of effort. And I deleted it, and one person's like, I use that all the time, and I sent them the statistics. I was like, no one's ever used it, man. So I think that's going to be it, P-Man.
Yeah, I think that about wraps us up. Again, thank you very much to our Patreons. You guys are awesome. Just, if you'd like to contribute, if you like what we do, kick us a dime every single week. We appreciate it. And that wraps up Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays. I still think we need...
we'll do this after the end. We'll do a little extra edit in. But yeah, that's right. I'm Ben Stone.
I'm Pedro Mateos.
And I'm Matthew Commando.
See you guys. Okay, so are you still listening? Yeah, you saw there was some extra time left on this track, didn't you? We totally knew the lower thirds were out of order, but we just rolled with it.
Yeah, Ven, I saw Ven setting those up, and I didn't say anything, and I was just keeping quiet.
Well, originally, all right, here's full disclosure, I had you two in different orders. And so when I switched your scenes around, I forgot to switch the lower thirds. So that's why.
Yeah, I just saw you doing the switching before we started the show, and it's like, the lower thirds. Okay, maybe he's just doing that. All right.
Well, now you just have to edit all the things for 5 hours, I guess.
No. Here's the brilliant thing. I was like, I could just do a mask over. It just says Linux Weekly Daily Wednesday.
Just paste that in.
Right. All right, that's it for real.